Hello everyone, welcome to another discussion of The White Luck Warrior. This is the second book in the Aspect Emperor series and the fifth book in the second Apocalypse series by R. Scott Baker. I finally got that right. It only took 10 episodes, but I got it right. Today's discussion is going to be for chapters 12 and 13. And next week will be to the end of the book, The White Luck Warrior. With me, of course, we have the usual group of friends. Some of them have been missing for a few weeks. It's really nice to have them back. Justin, would you like to start us off with introductions?
Absolutely. And yeah, congratulations on nailing that intro. It's a lot. It's a lot to hold. Every time you start and I'm like, God, what is it? How do you... Anyway, I'm Justin, and I'm a first-time reader and very much enjoying this reading and glad to be back this week to discuss with you all.
Carl.
Carl? I thought it was going to me.
Oh, I don't know. So Riverside doesn't show the same order. Yeah, it's not the same. So
sorry, I should have called on somebody.
Yeah, so maybe each person do that. I guess Dan, since you started, you go next.
Oh, sure. I'm Dan, multiple-time reader. I think for this discussion, you might have to excuse me and Justin. We might discuss things from previous chapters because we read the last 6 chapters in one go without discussion. So it might mix up what happened here or there. But yeah, excited about discussing things again about this book.
Nice.
And I'm Carl, first-time reader. Excited to have the whole gang back together.
Yeah, I'm Steve, excited to have everyone back. And tonight we dine on Shrank. And I was curious how everyone would prepare Shrank if they were going to eat Shrank.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm thinking jerky would be the way to go, right?
Oh.
Definitely.
I mean, if they're like humanoid, they're probably like pork, I guess, right?
I mean, jerky, you could it would last a while. You can kind of carry it in your sack and it'll last days.
If you're in the Great Ordeal, definitely. I thought you were just asking like broadly, like if you were to eat a shrank, just like in life in general, like maybe in real life. But no, if we're in the Great Ordeal, definitely jerky, right? It lasts. That's a good call.
Yeah.
But you think that's an issue? They can just go out every day and get a couple new ones.
That's true. Out there, you're not in short supply.
Fresh. I imagine from their physical description that the texture might be a little bit like tofu, like extra firm tofu, and the color. So like right away I went to like stir fry.
With broccoli, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Shrank burger is the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they must be somewhat fatty because they live in the north. They don't really wear many clothes. They need to have some sort of insulation because they don't have fur. They're bald, so they must be somewhat fatty type of meat, I guess.
So Dan has thought about this a lot. You can.
They're described as skinnies. Like,
True.
That's what they're called. Like they I feel like
True.
they're repeated. I mean, that's why they're called skinnies. Is because they're so skinny.
Is that why? I
maybe-
thought it's because they're all skin and like no hair and stuff. No? I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. Actually, that's a good point. You're right, because they're like non-men, so they have no hair. I don't know. I just assume. I swear they're described as like lean, though.
Probably.
I could be wrong.
I have that impression also.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've just been imagining them with lots of skin. That's why skin. Like extra
those
skin
flying
all
raccoons.
around.
It's like
Just too much skin, not enough meat on the bone.
So, based on the chapter titles, this is the climax of the Great Ordeal, right? The Great Ordeal thread, based on the chapter titles, like where we think we're going to be in the next 3 chapters. We're not coming back to the Great Ordeal. So this is basically how it ends, this book. The crowning moment of the Great Ordeal is that they're going to eat Shrank.
I didn't even notice that. Or wait, we're not coming back to him? Oh no, that makes me kind of sad, actually.
Yeah, I guess it's Momin and then the Library of Sogwish.
Wow, yeah, okay. Interesting.
I mean, it is a good idea. I don't know. Did anyone else think about it before when we were talking so much about, oh, there's no food or anything?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
The vegetarian of the group, folks. I was thinking that they should be eating.
You know, it weirdly hadn't occurred to me, but it does make sense. I'll admit I was kind of grossed out, but at the same time I wasn't like truly horrified. Maybe because they are like sufficiently different than humans that I mean I don't know, because like clearly consuming non-men, right, with through Kiri like messes with people. So are we going to see a similar thing, or are they going to become more like rabid eating shrank? I don't know. That's just random spitballing going on.
Yeah, that was the entire line of reasoning when several chapters ago I was thinking maybe they can just eat Shank, but maybe they won't or shouldn't, because maybe that will affect them mentally somehow. And then it went to I really hope they don't, and of course, several chapters later.
I mean, depending on your reason for being a vegetarian, like it could make perfect sense, because like if you're a vegetarian for like moral reasons, like the Shrank don't have souls, so
Yeah.
you might as well. And you're killing them anyway, so it's
This
kind
is
of
the middle ground. Is what you're saying.
The shortest path.
That's right.
The Shrank unite carnivores and moral vegetarians, and
That's right. It's the
the
answer.
Shrank bring all of humanity together. That's what Kellis has been trying to tell us.
But doesn't it feel kind of weird in the sense like they're sort of so humanoid, like even think about it. Kind of like when you see people eating monkeys or something. Like they're so humanoid, it gives you that weird feeling. It's like, it feels wrong a
But
bit.
it's definitely kind of gross.
Yeah, it's a little queasy at the thought of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, these are things that can talk, like these are hyper intelligent. They may be programmed to be like, and by hyper intelligent, I mean like compared to like your average animal, right?
Yeah, okay.
Not obviously like compared to like humans or the Dunyane, who at this point I'm like imagining as a species unto themselves.
But like arguably more like pretty close to a human level of intelligence in some cases, given the Kellis's first encounter with the non-man after he kills a bunch of the Shrank, and then the non-man who he eventually also kills, like tells him that one of the Shrank he killed was a valuable asset to them because he was like a keeper of stories, like kind of. And I guess looking back, that's one of those from the glossary, one of the Shrank that are like enlisted to help with the failing non-men memories, so like I feel like given like the opportunity or like the tutelage, like they have the capacity to be more than like a mass of fornicating murderous animals.
Maybe I don't know. I would think of you could give him like an IQ of, I don't know, 70 or something. I don't know what 70 is, but it's sort of pretty low range, but still sort of within the spectrum of what could be intelligence, I
mean,
guess.
I definitely think that they could potentially, like my initial reaction to them when I realized what they were was like, I guess you probably just need to kill them all because it's like the orc problem. But then I was thinking, well, you like maybe you can domesticate them, and apparently humans have done that. We've seen, and non-men, for that matter. And so maybe the Shrank aren't irredeemable. I mean.
That instinct, though, to kill and...
Well, that's what I'm saying, is you'd have to, you'd have to do a lot of work on them. Like, I'm not saying it would be easy. This would be a long-term project, right? Like,
a lot of therapy, a lot of psychology, right?
Yeah. Get specialized therapists just for the Shrank. Really work through the darkness that comes before with them, and I think maybe they have a chance,
Maybe.
They just need a prophet, They need their own prophet to come in and teach them the shortest path to moral coexistence.
Yeah, I mean, they did have some sort of a plan in the last battle, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much was like instinct of just running away, but it seemed like it was somewhat of a plan.
Well, yeah, they clearly can organize. Like they're not, and I don't think it's all instinct. Definitely. I mean, they wouldn't be able to be so. Yeah, they have strategies and things like that. And I mean, I guess you see some animals that like, pack animals that are kind of strategic too. But I don't know. I definitely get the sense. Again, the fact that they can communicate, they can talk. These are intelligent beings relative to most. But that said, they're also driven by the worst desires imaginable.
True.
Well,
Yeah.
We really skipped to the end.
we went right for the strength of it all. Yeah. What happens before that?
Where do these two chapters start? I don't remember.
So we start with Akamian dreaming of now Kayudi being murdered by the skin spy, which in hindsight makes perfect sense. And if I really bothered to like look at all the clues, I feel like you as the reader could guess it. With all the like, oh, the wife killed him, but that doesn't, is that just like sexism? What's going on there? It's a skin spy. Should have seen that coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
But I wonder, what have we seen before? I guess we've seen it before when he dreams of something which is not Seswata, right? But he's still like, how? Why? Right?
yeah, that remains a mystery.
I can't even begin to guess with that. I have no idea why.
'Cause at least
dreams are changing.
The Seswata stuff, you could say, oh, well, it was a ritual, some stuff is obscured, but it's still Seswata's life. But Nakayuti's not. So where is that coming from?
There
I mean,
have been some.
my only guess would be that the Curie changed things, because that's one of the objectively, materially changing factors here, right, in his life. Otherwise, I don't know if exposure to Mimara, because she's the judging eye, if that's doing something. I don't know. I mean, you do have the thought of like, if there's a connection between Seswatha and now Kayudi, obviously, right? Like that, there's the implication that they are related by blood, that Seswatha is his father, so there maybe is something there, but I don't know how that, how that works in terms of why he's dreaming through him now.
Did Akamian's dreams of like what I assume is like the non-men being made into Shrank, like did those coincide with them with the Curie? I mean, I feel like it couldn't have happened before that. I don't think so.
You're probably right. That is probably the case. Which then, yeah, that would make sense if the Curie is like. I mean, because we can see that it's making them more like non-men in a way, right? Where they're like emotionality is changing, and they seem to be, driven by kind of the same. I mean, I don't know that it's affected their memories,
but their like subjectivity is like dissolving, kind of. Like their individuality is beginning to become less important to them, I think, and
they're more callous.
Yeah, like I think that's really.
And of course, there's the question of like how much of that is just the slog too, right? Versus how much is the Curie. But I definitely get the sense that the Curie is actively, like biologically, if not spiritually, changing them.
Yeah.
So I completely missed the part where the murderer was a skin spy, and I was just looking back at it, and I remember being confused by this section because I wrote a lot of what, but how did you know that it was a skin spy? I'm trying to figure out what I missed.
I mean, it's not the wife. She looks like the wife, but it's not the wife. She like starts talking differently. It reminded me a lot of the scenes in the first trilogy of where the skin spy like is like the Empress, for example. Also, part of it was like the sexuality of the scene reminded me a lot of those assassination scenes in the way that the Inkaroys in their like creations, including the skin spies, like can have this like I don't know if it's pheromones or what, but like some sort of effect on human beings where they become like overly aroused and everything becomes it's like ecstasy. They're just like overwhelmed with sexual desire and pleasure. And so between all of that, I kind of just assumed it was a skin spy. I mean, I guess it.
No,
I
that
don't
makes
know.
sense. I think.
Say it explicitly. I don't know that it does, but
Yeah, I'm not sure if it does, but maybe there's a line or two there that I missed. I just. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It makes
interesting
sense. But, yeah.
because I didn't read it that way, but like as soon as you said that, Carl, I was like, oh, because like she says after she or when she's like going to murder him, she's talking about like how she will weep the filthy whore, which I presume is like the
Yeah, but it could be like just technically jealous wife versus concubine, right?
right. That's how I read that, and like obviously a skin spy wouldn't care about that. Like, but anyway, I don't know. I guess it could be.
I guess yeah. It's reading back on it now. I immediately just jumped to it was a skin spy talking about his actual wife, but I guess it's not explicit. It could be.
Oh, okay.
I fully made a logical leap there.
Yeah, this was one of the abomination skin spies that have a soul.
Say that again. Sorry, Steve.
One of the skin spies that have souls that were abominations. Maybe it was one of those.
Oh, why do you say that?
I'm just throwing ideas out.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess even if it is like the original per se, it could still be like I don't know. Yeah, I definitely made some assumptions there. Looking back on it now, I just immediately jumped to Skin Spy. I mean, I just think like the assassination of it all. I mean, I'm curious.
Huh.
Is it? Do we get more of this? Actually, that's a spoiler, so I probably shouldn't. But like, I don't know if like we find out explicitly. Like, is this something that I like? I don't know if it matters or not. I guess.
I mean, it's reasonable. I don't think it's that much of a weird theory or thought, right? Or interpretation.
Yeah, the text, I think the beginning of the chapter tracks with what you said. It's just not explicit enough that I noticed. So it's possible that I don't think it's completely off the grid.
Yeah, because well, I'm wondering now, like, because I feel like what you're saying has merit. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I guess where I go right away is like how long do we know, or how long have skin spies been a known quantity? You know, like, and is this saying like they existed?
Sure.
You know, they've been around like mucking things up for longer than we realized, or.
That was my thought. Like that's how I interpreted it, and that's actually part of the reason it was kind of an oh shit scene for me, where I was like, wait, like I hadn't fully thought about it. Like, fucking anyone in history could have been a skin spy, like, messing everything up, right? Like the freaking non-min betrayal, or like when the humans betrayed the non-min, like that could have been caused by skin spies. Like I'm not saying it was, and that maybe cheapens it. I don't know, but maybe not. You know, like maybe the Inkaroi are clearly waging. You know, and have been waging like a silent war for like what, like 1,000 years, 2,000 years. I always forget the timeline. It's 1,000 years.
I think it's like 2,000.
Is it does the calendar start with the apocalypse or like the end of the apocalypse or something, or is it? How does that work?
I think the prologue was a few thousand years of the dusk already, I think. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was
'cause-
3,000 something of Year of the Tusk.
Okay. I'm also okay. Looking at this scene, the Yeva, whether it's a skin spy or not, produces a filter, but it's spelled, at least this version. I don't know if this is just because this is a UK copy. Philtre. Dan, I don't know if you have any insight. Is that like a way? What is that? Like, do you know? Is that I'm not. I wasn't
Oh.
sure if that's like she grab. What is she grabbing there? My thought went to like, is that like a test tube? Like, is she taking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Apparently, it's a
Uh,
love potion. A drink supposed to
Oh.
arouse love and desire for a particular person in the drinker.
Oh, interesting.
You would think
Okay.
that the skin spice don't need that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like you, that would counter that theory. I don't know. I'm confused now. I'd really taken it for granted that was a skin spy, but I'm seeing now that I definitely was jumping to some conclusions. Interesting.
I guess we'll see. I guess for now it doesn't really matter. It only matters that he was killed, technically.
Right. It's not. It doesn't actively influence the plot. I mean, the bigger deal
For
there
now.
is that Akamian is dreaming in now Kayudi. Like that's the huge thing here, right? And that is, yeah. I have no idea what's going on there. I don't know if like reality is breaking or something. Like,
Well, there's
you would
someone
think-
else, there's something else going on there, but yeah.
Yeah. You would think that like it is something tied to like the magic that gave him the memories in the first place, that like something is influencing those. But I don't know what.
Okay, we don't even know why he started having the weird dreams, so
Right. I am glad we also had it confirmed, and on a related note, that the Swael sisterhood also have the dreams.
mm.
And I wonder if their dreams are at all, you know, are they all like the exact same? You know, how do they experience the dreams? You know, does their sex, their gender, like impacted at all? You know, I don't, because I mean I don't know. I'm just curious. Is it just exactly like what the mandate, or I mean I guess we don't even know if the mandate all actually experience it the exact same way, right? I guess they
Yeah.
record it, but you know clearly there's enough. There's the possibility of variance, which is freaking Akamian out now because didn't used to change, and now he's fucking now Kayudi dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did some looking for the dating. It looks like the first age happens. That's when Arcfall happens. The womb plague during the womb plague era. That's last centuries. The second age starts. That's when the years starts at 0,
Okay.
and the first apocalypse happens in 2123.
Wait, so what happens in year 0?
Year 0 is the legendary. I don't know if I should repeat all this. So
Is that when the tribes come into Irwa?
yes,
Okay.
What's it called? The breaking of the gates?
the
or
breaking
something
of the
like that?
gates, right? The legendary breaking of the gates, the name given to the assault on the gates of Era.
Yeah, we did
So-
know that vaguely,
Okay.
right? So
Sometimes it's hard to remember,
What?
but
Okay.
yeah,
So what millennium are we in? 4132. Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
looking. For some reason I've forgotten that. Okay. So we're okay. So yeah, it was 2,000 years ago, and Enrithi Sejanus
Yeah.
was 1,000 years ago, roughly, right?
yeah. So the apocalypse ended in 2155.
Okay.
makes sense.
And Sejanus came along sometime in the like centuries after the first apocalypse and reinterpreted the tusk. Is that right?
Something like that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's definitely
So-
a good deal after it, at least centuries.
Yeah.
Got it.
So the breaking of the gates marks the beginning of the calendar of the Tusk.
Yeah, that makes
So-
sense, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds very familiar to another book we're all familiar with.
Okay. Well, what's the next part after Akemian's dream?
Akemian gets captured.
This is when he gets revealed all the thing? Well, that he knew, that the captain knew all along about
Yeah.
Mimar and okay.
Yes.
Like the
And
captain was
yeah.
secretly employed to just kind of like keep watch on Akamian for the 20 years he's been in exile.
Oh yeah, that was some reveal. and apparently Kellis maybe has been, well, this is Akamian's conjecture, we don't know that for sure. But he thinks that Kellis might have been secretly visiting his apartments and getting he does all the dreaming and Kellis gets all the information from it.
He's like always a step ahead. Yeah, it's
Yeah. It's kind of
yeah,
creepy to think, like, you think backwards. All those times I was sleeping, there could have been someone there watching me, doing weird things to me or something. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, Kellis is doing some pretty Supermanish things these days.
Yeah.
It's like blinking in and out of existence, and so
Yeah.
he's kind of
Is
like the
this the
boogeyman.
part where there's who was it? Proyas thinks about he's like Kellos went to train with this demonologist for half a year or something, or 3 months, and he went and he got the decapitants after, or is it before?
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar. I think it might be this section.
Yeah, because I think it's like Proyas thinks about that. He's like, oh, he went to train with the Grand Master of the Scarlet Spires, right?
Yes.
And then I guess he learned.
we
Oh,
have
demons
definitely
will
read
look
that
at
at this point. I don't remember if that's this chapter or this set of chapters, or if it was the one before. I don't even
Yeah.
remember if we get Proyas' POV here. No, we
Maybe
must.
it's not.
Right?
We get a little bit of Proyas, I think, in this section.
Yes. No, you're right, Dan. I think that is this section
Okay.
here.
But yeah, he's doing a bunch of weird shit. So
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I am so curious about what Kellis has been up to over the decades, and yeah, the story of those demon heads and everything. And it sucks because we when he tells us stuff, it's hard to know if it's a lie or not, or if he says he uses the truth to manipulate people, right? And so I'm like, did he actually go to be outside? Did he actually go to hell? I mean, it kind of seems like maybe he did. And what does he know? How did that change him? How did that change his outlook and his plan, the thousandfold thought? There's a lot of intriguing notions there that I don't really know what to make sense of.
I mean, doesn't he always kind of say the truth, but maybe he's missing something or slightly making you misinterpret something, but he's always sort of saying the truth, technically.
Yeah, he likes to bend the truth, or I mean, even he sometimes is very blunt about it and isn't even bullshitty, but he's just doing it to win your trust, or to make you love him and worship him, and that fucking guy.
So what do you think he's doing? Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask: do you think he's doing it to protect humans because he doesn't think we can or they can handle it, or is it more sinister than that?
What do you mean?
Is he telling half truths because he thinks that humans will go mad if they do what was really happening, or what he's seen or what he knows? Is he doing that to protect them?
No. I mean, that's so Moengus had this grand plot, right? To unify everybody, to go against the to storm Golgotha in a unified way, right? I was thinking during some of these scenes like, oh man, it would be pretty amazing to have some of these water bearers out there just like throwing down, like, but they're all dead because like Kellis, like lost his mind according to Moengus. But like, I feel like Moengus was lying to everybody to protect them, or, that was the proposition he presents. And Kellis is doing something else. Like whatever it isn't fucking good. It's not good.
Yeah, I feel like protection being part of Kellis's agenda sounds like a strange proposition. It just doesn't feel like he would do anything for the sake of other people, but I don't know. But I don't know what his motivations are. I have no idea what he's up to.
I mean, he is trying to stop the consult, right? Which is, that's protecting humanity. Like, he is acting as sort of this father figure for humanity in that regard. I mean, he's an emperor, right? Like that's sort of the job description, is like this pseudo divine, paternal role. And I obviously that comes with him doing a lot of like horrible tyrannical acts, but that's the thing that's hard for me to like really put my finger on, is like what drives him. And it continues. This goes back to things I've been arguing for so long now, that like he is, despite what he thinks, is influenced in some way by the darkness that comes before, and that he's not as fully cut off, because like if he was fully cut off, he like wouldn't be motivated to do anything. And he and all the Dunyain are still motivated, like they still have a drive. And so the question is like, what is it that drives him? And that's something that I struggle to fully understand. Like, is it just like this insatiable need for like control? That feels very Dunyain, right? Because they're trying to like sort of control themselves and how they interact with the world. And so maybe it's as simple as that. And obviously the consult is like a huge threat to his control. But I don't know.
Maybe he loves Esmenet and he's trying to protect her. Isn't that what Proya sort of asked? It's like, oh, do you love, or something like that, right? In one of the discussions.
And I think he said that he cannot love, or something to the effect that
something
it's
like,
impossible
it's for
him.
lesser beings, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The base emotion, or something like that.
And I think that's bullshit too. Like I think to some degree, I think he does experience love differently, like kind of in the way that like in like the real world, like sociopaths don't feel love in the same way, with people. Like they sort of like, it's like inhabiting a role kind of. They can still be protective of people. They can still like, because I remember one of the most shocking moments in the original trilogy was that like he actually mourned Serway. Like he was upset when she died. And that to me was like, I wondered if he was just going to like devolve from there, if we were seeing like cracks in his armor. And I guess, that's still an open-ended question, right? Like, has he fundamentally changed? Is he more emotional now than he was when he started his journey? But I do think he probably has some sort of affection for Esmenet. That does not excuse everything he does to her. And I do not think he feels love as maybe Esmenet would define love. But I think he does have some sort of attachment to her. And I think he lies to himself about that. I don't think... I don't know if this is an unpopular... I mean, we haven't finished the series. I who knows where his character goes, right? I don't know if this is an unpopular reading of his character, but I think Kellis lies to himself as much, if not more, than he lies to anyone else around him.
Yeah, I think that's... like when I think of like what's Kellis's end game here, like that's the big question. Like there's so much mystery like enshrouding his character, and like what the origins of the Dunyain are, and like is there I start speculating like are the Dunyain somehow tied to the Inkaroi, like in some sort of way that's obscured. But like when I think about Kellis's motivation, I start thinking about like what's the larger work that like Baker's trying to do here? Like what's the philosophical like work that he's putting in here? And I don't think it's to like excuse the like I don't think it's to excuse like horrible deeds on behalf of like, you know, leaders of humanity. Like I think Baker takes a very dim view of like human history, and he's like unimpressed with like, you know, the way we've conducted ourselves. And so I don't think Kellis is like acting in an like, you know, whatever fucked up version of altruism you would consider like, you know, the murder of like, you know, millions of living beings to be. But like, I don't think his motivations are altruistic. I think they're purely selfish somehow, or maybe not, like, yeah, selfish. Yeah, that's where I go with it.
Right. And I mean, I think he could delude himself, right, into thinking that he is in some way protecting humanity. At the same time, he probably tells himself, like, what does he tell himself? I wonder what goes on in his head, where he's like, why am I doing this? You know, why do I feel the need to take on the console? Like, what does he tell himself every day? Why does he get up in the morning? You know?
I'm pretty sure he has a plan. He's like, I know what pretty sure he thinks he knows what he's doing and why. I think.
Right, exactly. And like he certainly has some understanding. Like he's self-aware enough that he has a dialogue with himself, certainly. And so I wonder what that dialogue is, because we've not been in his POV to hear him like lay out why he feels he needs to stop the consult. We kind of heard, like, the closest we ever got was his conversation with Moyingus, you know, at the end of the 1000-fold thought. But even then, like, he doesn't really talk about like, well, why do you feel the need to stop then? You know, he's just kind of like, I'm just going to do this. You know, this is just what we are going to do. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to interpret him. I agree absolutely, Justin, that like Kellis is in no way supposed to be a heroic figure, or, you know, as like his actions should not be excused. And certainly, yeah, Baker, I think, is challenging kind of notions of that. You know, I mean, he's sort of a Paul Atreides figure, right? And I do think the difficult question is like, well, how do you stop the consult? You know, what does it take to stop the consult? Because you know, they're an apocalyptic force, and that's the troubling part of all this. I certainly don't want to believe that, you know, someone like Kellis is required, but like, what is required to stop them?
Yeah, but I mean, are the Dunyan equally an equally apocalyptic force, you know? Like,
yeah. I am curious to see what has become of Ishwal since Kellis left.
I know there's like 5 pages at the end I just looked at.
Yeah.
Titled Ishwal. So
I mean, we're going there because even though the revelation of the captain and everything, he's still going to the coffers for some reason. We don't know why.
Part of me still wonders if they, like, I forget who brought this up. Someone at some point brought up the idea of like, maybe they just all killed themselves, you know? Like they just went full cult and just like all off themselves after they realized Kellis wasn't coming back, you know?
Yeah.
What has become of them? I don't know.
Yeah, Kellis could have polluted all of them because they, you know, were trying to be so insular.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Also in this section, I guess before we move on from it, this is the section in which Mimara gets out of Cleric that he is Nilgikus.
Yep.
Yes.
Which, that's some pretty wild shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we also know that the chariot guys, the non-men, they went to talk to Kellis, they said they came from Nilgikus, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is clearly bullshit.
Or maybe he's manipulating things behind the scenes, but he doesn't seem like it.
I would be shocked because he hardly knows how to like put his pants on in the morning. Like
He doesn't wear pants anymore.
Yeah, no, he's just wandering around in a cloak and nothing else. And he hasn't washed that cloak in like 2 years.
They don't wear pants, right? Because they're always described as having a Nemiel Holberg, and then it says, oh, they're not wearing anything underneath. So they are actually not wearing pants or anything, really.
They forgot how to wear pants ages ago.
They
Did he get
evolved.
Tom anything?
You know?
They culturally evolved beyond pants.
They no longer need pants. The non-men are more advanced than pants. I don't know what to make of all of that. It is interesting. That is one of those reveals that's like really cool, and I'm not shocked by it because he was one of the few non-men who we knew of who like actually mattered, and so it adds up that he's, you know, I felt like there were two ways that could have gone. Like either he was someone we knew about, which it ended up being, or he was like thematically going to be about like the forgotten people in history because clearly he was a big deal. And yeah, he's Neil Gikos. I don't know. I don't even remember Neil Gikos' story. Like, what has he done? He's the last non-man king, I guess. But like, what does that mean? Like, what I don't remember historically what his deal was.
Was he? I guess what I was thinking is that he was the last one to stand against the console. Like he was he the king who was betrayed?
No, that was in Sylloges, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole story there, and that was the Wraith King that possessed, who we now know is Nilgicus.
But I think at the end of the second apocalypse, there were still a couple of mansions around, I think. It was not just one left. But I don't remember if the other ones were like killed by humans or they just, they just degraded because they didn't have any children. I don't remember that.
Kujara Kingmoy, or Sujara Simo, however we're saying his name, he was still around in the first apocalypse, right? Like he was one of the people who fought back, I believe. Like that's how I remember him, is he was like the big non-man king in the apocalypse, but maybe I'm mixing him up with Nilgicos. I don't know. That's my question, is like I need to look at the appendix again to remember like what Nilgicos' role was in all of that. And to even begin to interpret like, yeah, maybe that's something I'll do while I'm reading this next section, is go back to that, because I read that, I was like, oh wow, what does that mean? Like how should we interpret that? Other than obviously it doesn't change the fact that he's a scary erratic who is unpredictable and kills the people he loves.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, there's two things, right? It's like, why is the king of the last non-man mentioned there? And what's going on with the people that went to see Kellus? Like, what's their plan? Because they're obviously lying. Right.
Well, is it obvious that they're lying? Callus can fly all over the place, or like teleport himself. And the non-men apparently have better magic than the Gnosis, right? Or at least they were the ones who taught the Gnosis originally. So it is possible they were teleporting from place to place and meeting when we weren't aware. Seems far-fetched, but it's not. I wouldn't completely rule it out just yet.
But I think even when Kellus left to teleport, he left for like a couple of days or something. Because it still takes a while to travel all the... And then when he got there, remember, he had to like rest for like a night before he could travel again.
Yeah, and you can only go horizon to horizon. That's fair.
Something like that.
Are we not going to see the hostages, including Sorwheel, Serwa, and Moingus, arrive in the non-men city? It's just occurring to me, if we don't return to them, I assume that would be how the book would end, but I guess we're not going to see them actually show up.
Well, at some point.
Well, I mean, in the next book, presumably.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a little frustrating to me, actually. I'm like, it feels like a kind of abrupt way to end.
I mean, it ended
also how I felt.
on a cliffhanger, right? Also,
yeah, that's how I felt in the last book too. Sorwheel's plot continues to end in a way that I'm like, it's dramatic, I guess, but it's like that's it. Like,
I mean, I thought Sorwheel climaxed in that last.
Well, he did.
Hey!
You're right about that. That definitely was a very climactic moment for Sorwheel. Oh wow.
Oh, that was good.
That was good. I gotta give you credit for that one, Justin.
It took me a minute. I was like, what happened? Oh.
I couldn't believe that. That was a moment I was just like, what is going on? Like,
I had to read those sentences like 5 times. I was like, okay, what's okay, that's happening. All right. Okay.
I immediately got it. I was like, okay, Moingus and Serwa are having an affair. Okay, that's weird, but honestly, like, that adds up.
Yeah.
And then the store wheel of it all, I was like, what is that? That was the part that I also had to read twice to like make sure I was like, is this happening? Like, what is going on? Baker, what the fuck?
It kind of makes sense though. Like it didn't feel weird in the sense like, oh, he would never do that. It kind of fits him in a sense.
Maybe, that was. There are some times I will admit that I like sexuality is clearly like a big thematic part of this series, but like I feel like most people's reactions, particularly most teenagers' reactions to finding out that they have been cheated on. Obviously, he and Serwa were not actually together, but like that's how he interprets it, right? Is to get like really angry,
I mean,
which he is. But not like to then say, oh, I'm going to stay and watch, I mean, he has this like now cuckoldry fetish. And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not like, it's certainly not impossible. It was just so, I guess shocking and not what I expected. I thought, at first I was like, oh, he's just going to get pissed and like start screaming at them, which he did, but not before he climaxed.
Yeah. But I feel like it's very on point for him because his whole thing is about being conflicted and doing things, and he wants to do some other thing, and he feels like he's being, I don't know, it sort of like feels in the same vein as that sort of feeling, I guess.
It gives me big Nair vibes. It's the first time I'm like, this is another character now with just the most confusing sexual reactions ever.
Yeah. Also, one thing about that scene is like every time Baker uses the euphemism "his little brother," I'm like, I can't.
It's so much. What is it? How does he describe it? He's like, I thrashed my little brother or something. It's the worst.
But he uses it more than one time. He uses every once in a while, and like, I don't know about that.
Someone needs to like go back and thrash Baker. Yeah. It's like, dude, oh god, it's horrible.
There's a couple of ones, but I guess he thinks it's fine. I mean, there's some things that he uses more than once. Like every time there's a battle, he says, "Death comes swirling down," right? There's some phrases which he likes to repeat.
He loves little brother. Yeah, I remember reading that for the first time. Like, does that mean what I think it means? Yeah, okay. That's a choice.
Yeah.
I want to know the cultural history that led to that being. I don't want to know. I know I do. I'm lying. I really do want to know. I want to know how the hell that became the slang, but I can't imagine. You would think it would be some sort of horse related thing, but apparently it's
No.
Yeah, Baker's descriptions are sometimes
he never fails to surprise. I'll give him credit. He is very creative.
This is tangential, but I just before I joined you all in discussing, I think it was in the second book, maybe there's a moment where Kellis is like surveying all of those before him, and Baker, there's a line in there, I underlined it in the book, I should go back and find it, but he refers to like Kellis like is taking everyone in, and it's the line he says is he smells the honey of unwashed anuses.
Oh god.
I was just like, the honey? What the fuck, man? Like, that is... Wow. Yeah. That one really stuck with me. Yeah. I mean, it made an impact.
His writing never fails to, if nothing else, sear itself into your memory. Like, he does evoke visceral reactions.
Going back to that scene, do you think that, like you were saying, they're having an affair, right? But do you think they're actually having an affair, or are they just doing it to manipulate Sorwheel? It's based on how they talk to him after. It's sort of, right? Because she says, oh, the two hostages, and then the enemy. And it's like, wait a second. Because why would they send him? Because he's a believer king, right? He's supposed to be an enemy. So they're trying to make him an enemy? Is that the idea?
I thought she was pointing out to him his place as an enemy, that, we can't be friends. Whatever you thought was happening before is not a thing because we're not friends. That's how I interpreted that.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess that's the other possibility. But they never felt particularly friendly to me, so that's the only reason I wouldn't go in
But I
that
mean,
direction.
he obviously believes, like, they think he believes in Kellos. Like, if they had to send an enemy, why not send Soronga, right? Because he doesn't believe in Kellos.
So, I mean, it feels like Kellis has some ulterior motives with Sorville, which at first I thought was political, which I still don't fully understand what the purpose of. Well, I guess they needed a supply chain for the beginning of the Great Ordeal. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
But afterwards, I guess now, was it clear to us, or are we still speculating about whether or not Kellis is aware of Sorville's being a chosen one of Yatwar?
Don't know.
It felt like was it Cayutus who, when he ordered Sorville to murder his slave, it felt like retribution for the fact that his slave has been sort of his link to Yatwar. We find out later that Soranga has to murder his mentor person too. So it feels innocuous, but maybe it's not.
I mean,
And
Right, that was the camp policy.
they all had
Yeah.
to,
Had to kill their slaves.
right, yeah, but
But you're right, man. I mean, maybe there is some targeted thing going. I mean, I hadn't even fully considered the idea that, yeah, Kellis is maybe he does know, and maybe there's honest or Borum manipulations going
So
on.
maybe he's trying just to send him away so he's not nearby?
No, I mean, I don't feel like it's that. Like that feels too simple. If it is a strategy, what I will say to argue against Zoronga, they kind of need to keep him nearby because he's a hostage that's supposed to keep the Zumi in line, and clearly that's not as effective as it theoretically is supposed
But I
to
mean,
be.
all the Scions were supposed to be hostages, right? And they don't care if they don't die, to be honest.
But that's at least the idea.
Yeah.
So I could see why they would want to keep him near, as opposed to Sorwheel, who I kind of feel like is maybe more.
But you don't think getting
not
like
expendable,
the
but,
alliance
like,
of the non-min would be worth more than that? If he can get the non-min on his side, that would be quite useful in theory.
I mean, I'm wondering now too. A thing that occurred to me as you were asking, like, what's the deal with the non-men, Dan, and why are they lying? If they are lying, which I feel like they are, like they're not communicating with Nilgik. I just don't believe that. That just seems, now that we know Cleric is Nilgikus, that just doesn't make any sense to me how that would work. Again, he's just not a functional person, unless the captain is somehow. Like, if Kellis is somehow playing this, insane 4D chess game, which I guess is not impossible, where he, through the captain, is manipulating Nilgikus to manipulate non-men back in the city, that feels almost just too much even for Kellis. But getting back to the non-men is, I don't know, maybe they've already gone on to the consult. That's what I'm wondering is, have they already betrayed humankind and we're about to watch, shit go down at their city?
I guess technically it could be possible that there's a regent governing in place of Nilgikus, so he's speaking for him. So maybe they mean that. That's not something completely out of consideration.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess for to guess at Kellis's motivations too is difficult because this is a guy who has known where Kamian has been, who's one of his biggest threats. He's known where he was, and he's just playing the real long game with it. So if he knows what Sorwheel, if he knows about Sorwheel's connection, then this could be some long game, or he could have no idea. Like I'm still like find the idea that he doesn't know. I find that to be the more seductive concept, because it's like the one fucking thing he doesn't know.
I agree. that I liked it and kind of took it for granted for that reason, is because I just think that's interesting, because that would be like the first fucking time that he doesn't know something. Yeah. Like the Acadian thing in hindsight is actually not that surprising, because Kellis fucking knows everything. That's like how he works. And so it's interesting that like the idea of there being a force that can counteract that finally. But I mean, that then begs the question is like, if he did know, one, why is he lying about it? But two, how? Like, how would he see through the divine magic that seemingly is quite potent? Like that would imply that Kellis has some sort of divine magic going on himself. And I don't know how that, I mean, he's been to the outside, I guess, but I don't know like how that manifests, like what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
So I know Sorville thinks that he's like really hidden, and the Anasurimbo can't really read his expressions as well as they might, and so on, that his expressions are not, and I kind of want to believe him, but I also feel a little bit like he might be like that kid. Have you guys seen that video of the kid with the hula hoop? It just falls off and the kid still thinks that it's hula hooping.
Yes, I've seen that video.
So I feel a bit like Sorville might be like that kid. Just
you didn't realize the mask is gone.
Like, I mean, he's not really hiding as much as he thinks he is, or that he's taking what Soranga is saying to him at face value in terms of, the goddess is protecting you and hiding you, and a lot of it tracks that he's being put in situations that bring him closer to the Anasurimbo, make him more important and whatnot. But then also, I think Kellis must have overheard at least one conversation in which he's been telling Soranga, like, it can't mask sound, I'm sure, unless he's hearing something else garbled. I feel like we've seen him overhear at least one story, one conversation in which he's telling Soranga about Yatvar. So it's hard to believe that he doesn't know. I would like for him to not know. I agree with you guys that would be really nice and make for a very interesting aspect of the story, but I also find it difficult that he wouldn't, given all his extreme spying skills and strange interest in Sorville.
Right, like what's his plan if he... Because I have to imagine that if he knows Sorville is bullshitting him, then he has to know that Sorville is a threat. Like he must understand that there's some connection between Yatvar and Sorville, if just going off the idea that he can read through it, right? Like I feel like that requires a level of like he must be able to deal with this divine magic, and so he must be able to understand what's like however that works. And so what does he then plan for Sorville, which I guess has been a question mark this entire time, right? Like that's unclear. So new theory, what if this whole series really, and we didn't realize it in the first trilogy, is it's just all the gods kind of like warring against each other, and they're all picking their like avatars and people, and we don't fully realize it, but like I had sort of just interpreted things as like Kellis versus the gods versus the consult. But what if Kellis is not his own side, and what if Kellis is like, with maybe without knowing it, maybe ignorant of it, like one of the gods chosen, and the other gods, that would feel like very like classical mythology, which this second half of the series is increasingly reminding me of like, like the Iliad and like different things like that, the classics where like the gods pick sides, right? And they all like war against each other kind of, but not directly. It's like through mortals. And so what if that's what we're kind of witnessing here, is the gods all having their own like chess pieces that they're all playing. And Kellis, despite what we've been led to believe, is not like independent of them, but is acting as one of them. And maybe even continuing this train of thought, maybe connected, maybe disconnected. Maybe what if that's the origin of the Dunyan, is one of the god created this whole little sect and, spun them out. And they don't realize that they're being manipulated by a god, but that's the origin of their whole obsession with the absolute, and their, obsession with consciousness and the darkness that comes before, is some god like set them on a train track and like threw them forward.
Makes sense. But
Yeah.
how would the council fit into that? Because the council is specifically against the gods, right?
Right. My one guess would be they are the one force outside the gods.
Right.
At least because that's what the no god, our understanding of it seems to be, unless the no god is actually one of the gods. It's still unclear what the no god is and
Like
how all that works.
a fallen god, or like I've wondered, like the Inkaroi, because they came from the physical outside, like if that means they are a fallen aspect of some god, or
They're fallen
yeah.
angels. That's what they are.
yeah. I mean,
Well, it's interesting that they are like literally like a sci-fi version of that, right? Because they came from space, right? Or maybe literally they came from the outside. I mean, I guess that's kind of up in the air at this point. But they flew in a spaceship and crashed down, and they're like fallen alien angels.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe they are like, yeah, exactly, some aspect of the god.
That's what I've like kind of have been starting to like, that has been creeping in. It's like the origins of the Inkaroi and the origins of the Dunyan. Like if they go further back than we've recognized, and they're playing this like super long game against each other that's just gotten like really, really messy and mixed in with humans and non-men and all that fun stuff. I don't know.
That's the interesting thing about history, right? Is like when history's long enough, like all of the beginning forces that could have started as like a very simple story, right? A very simple conflict can get so much exponentially more complicated and messier, right? And can be now obscured to us, the reader, through the like thousands of years of history and all these new like factions that have sprung up and the different dynamics that have emerged out of that, maybe independently, maybe tied into like, yeah, some original conflict, some original sin or something, I mean, I guess we have an original sin, which is the whatever that school, the Mangeka school, fucking releasing the Inkaroi.
I think that's interesting though. Like, just it's kind of poetic. Like the idea of Sorwheel and the White Luck. Like these people who are inhabited, or whatever their relationship is to Yatwer, are Sorwheel has become aware of it, but like whatever the other whatever else the White Luck is inhabiting right now is like perhaps unaware of its origins, or like not self-aware.
Feels different,
like yeah, like maybe maybe that's just a shorter version, a smaller version of what like you were just speculating of what Kellis is, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
I mean, no, that's a great point. That like all the avatars of the White Luck Warrior, for most of their existence, seemingly are not aware that they are avatars. That like they're inhabited at like a particular moment, and then it's like he moves on, it seems like. And so, yeah, if that is in some way, yeah, then manifested elsewhere through like the other gods or something, because presumably it's not also the White Luck Warrior and Kellis hunting himself.
Yeah. But the other guy feels very like he knows, like, I don't know, maybe he's just more willing to be inhabited. Maybe that's what it is.
The way that I had been reading that, and maybe this is incorrect, is that he was like body hopping, the White Luck Warrior. And it wasn't just like one guy slowly walking to kill Kellis. It was like the White Luck Warrior was like, yeah, body hopping, going through different avatars, moving towards Kellis.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I don't understand how Sorwheel can also be his potential avatar, or the fucking...
Well, no, because the White Luck Warrior, we see him talking to the Narindar, right?
Right.
Which is the same time as... I guess it's possible, but how would he get... I guess we don't know.
Well, the way I'm viewing it is that it's like these kind of pieces that he's like... Because the White Luck Warrior as a god theoretically exists at all times at once. Right? Or it's like outside of time.
Yeah.
And so to him, it's like, it's not even... That's not even a problem, right? And so these people are not aware that they are going to and in some sense have always been and will always be an aspect or an avatar of the White Luck Warrior, right? But like part of what made me think that is, one, we have the whole weird ass scene. I mean, we keep getting like weird brief snapshots of the White Luck Warrior traveling, right? But we also have the scene where seemingly he has sex with the priestess who is inhabited by Yatwer, and then like gets really old. And I don't get the sense that that's the same person we've seen walking everywhere.
No, I think that's when he changes. But I thought that was the only time. And
well, the other thing we know is with he's inside Kelmomis at one point, or inside someone right by the Empress.
Is he?
Like he explicitly, that's something we talked about last episode, and he is the gift of Yat, like specifically what like happens in the scene is like the gift of Yatwer is like sitting on the Empress's lap, aka Asmunat. This is before everything falls apart.
Is it?
And so I can't imagine who that is other than Kelmomis.
Yeah. Well, and that would.
Again.
I remember reading that because I remember thinking the person that they brought in to separate Kelmomis and so what was his Samarmis was this like sort of he was a servant, right? Who would have been a servant of who would have worshipped Yatwer very likely, and perhaps like it was at that point that he like incepted or whatever.
Oh, interesting. There's
like,
some sort of ritual thing going on there.
Yeah, like
right?
that's how he made it happen. Like, I don't know.
Wasn't there was something I was watching who was it? On YouTube recently. I just watched the discussion it's between two booktubers who just read The Judging Eye. And Philip Chase and Joanna, and they I forget, one of them brought up that like there were some weird things said to the babies right when they like broke up, which I'd forgotten about, and it almost sounded like a like spell, or like there was something magical going on that like split them up, you know, whatever was going on there when they were staring at each other and then stopped. And I would need to look back at what it was, but like that would add up, that right, like something happened there that then left, you know, Kelmomis with some sort of divine aspect.
Yeah, that's where I went with it. Anyway, but.
Yeah, that's same.
I thought that I'm trying looking again. It says where the gift of Yatwer glimpsed himself peering back, the Holy Empress beside him. I thought that whole section. I think that's the section you're referring to. I thought
that is
because I thought he was saying that he sees himself forward and backwards in time. So I thought it was him saying, "Oh, I see myself in the future, standing next to the Empress." That's how I thought it was, because then he was describing the riots, which haven't happened yet. That's why I was like thinking of that. But
well, yeah, I mean that makes sense too. Mm-hmm. If that's like a future vision of him.
I think.
So yeah, I mean I don't know how all this stuff works. I mean you're certainly at a point with the full picture that like I have no idea how the White Luck Warrior works. That has been confusing.
No, but some things I'm like, when you're saying things, I'm like, it could be. Wait a second. Like it's not always like I know what's going on. Sometimes I don't.
This slow moving bullet it's interesting.
Are you saying it doesn't all become perfectly clear by the end of the
There's a lot of things that you can interpret. But also, I don't think me and Steve have read in depth enough all the theories and all the things to understand everything. Like all the things apart from the main plot. Even the main plot, some things I'm like not 100% sure.
So 4 read-throughs didn't do it?
It depends. I don't know. It's kind of like it's in a bit of a smaller version of, because I just read Blood Meridian and I'm like, I don't understand anything. It's a bit like that. Not as much, but it's a little bit like that. Like there's so many things which I'm like, I completely missed all of these things. I don't understand, or I'm sure there's a subtext here that I'm not getting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense that there would be things that aren't super clear or left to interpretation and deliberately so. Speaking of blood meridian, there was a blood meridian like sentence somewhere in these two chapters, except the and were separated by full stops. Periods for the Americans.
I mean, yeah, is it even Cormac McCarthy then if you actually use punctuation? I don't think so. What weak homage? Come on, Baker, step it up.
Yeah.
Someone listened to their copy editor. Big mistake.
But you're right. Now that I've finally read it, I'm seeing a lot of inspiration. I'm sure he's very inspired by his works.
There's definitely a lot. It was like reading Blood Meridian was like opening my eyes to so much in this series, particularly in these recent two books, that it's like, wow, he clearly had huge inspiration. He wears his inspiration on his sleeve, but it's great. It's like he mixes it all up, right? You can see the Dune, you can see the Lord of the Rings. You know, I'm sure there's more there. Obviously, the like Nietzsche of it all. It's cool. Yeah. Makes for very interesting reading. I like that there is stuff that you can continue to interpret. You know, like I'm reading the second half of Book of the New Sun right now. I just started it, and similarly, I know people talk about how it's like. I mean, I remember the first two books when I read them. I was like, half the time I had no idea what the hell was going on. And yeah. You just have to be like along for the ride and just accept that, you know, some things will just fly over your head. And
I mean, after we read the series, I mean, we can do another one. We can read the Chronicles of Urwa. We can do it. Like, there's a lot of supplementary reading that you can do and more discussion. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Baker fits so much into a sentence or just even a few words. There's just so much to comb over in the series. It's wild.
He is very clearly an incredibly talented writer. Like, I may, you know, joke a little bit about some of the writing choices, but his prose is so evocative. And you know, again, talking about the videos watching of those reactions to the Judging Eye on YouTube, they touched on something I thought was like so poignant, which is just like how extended a sequence Sylogis is, yet the darkness is like continuously described in new ways. You know, it's like it doesn't feel repetitive, but so it just creates this intense atmosphere that I just found so powerful and so memorable. And, you know, I know it's going to stick with me, you know, until I become a demented erratic. It's just phenomenal. There are just some, just really phenomenal prose.
But it's very, how to say, like, I can see a lot of people not liking it. Like, it's very particular, right?
Yes.
It's not universally, like, it's not like Brandon Sanderson, which everyone can enjoy that, right?
Well, you say that, but there are people who don't like Brandon Sanderson because Steve, there you go, right? Like, people who bounce off his stuff because they don't like the prose or they don't like, you know, the characters. They focus on hard magic, you know, the more like, I think he's more depth than he's sometimes given credit for, but like, you know, it's not like he's going for like the darkest like pits of humanity or like.
No, but the prose is very fluent and legible, and it feels good. Like, it's not. You know what I mean? It's good prose.
Yes, no,
I think everyone can agree that it's good prose. Not everyone, but most people.
He has parts that I feel like are actually really bad, but I think we're talking about Sanderson stuff? Yeah, I think he has sections that I feel like are not well written, just like on like a technical level. But that said, I do think he has others that are like, it's smooth, it reads easily, like his stuff is very accessible, which is why it's so successful, and I think understandably and well deserved. And he puts out books at a consistent pace, which I gotta give him credit for. Not every fantasy author can say the same.
But Baker, it's very you love it or you hate it. Kind of like, I don't know. What do you think, Varsha, of these fighting scenes? I know you had a lot of opinions in the first series about all the section of like, oh, these guys with the swords and these guys with the shields, and they come from here, they come from there, and there's this important guy with this name. Oh, he's dead, right? There's a lot of that, isn't there?
There is. I think so. I, in general, I think in all the fiction, in all forms of fiction that I read, watch, listen to, I do not enjoy fight sequences. So that's a personal preference. So I automatically attempt to switch off when or it feels like I'm about to, I'm about to slog through action sequences. Right? There are some authors that bring me out of that and say, no, you're actually enjoying this. I like that. So in the first series, there were no action sequences that felt like that in this book, in this series. I did not enjoy reading any action sequences. They're just not for me. It has nothing to do with how the author wrote them. They just, since I'm already inclined towards not enjoying them, I think they just weren't of a style that would have made me enjoy them regardless. In this second series, I think, a few episodes ago, I was talking about the first Shrank battle. This one bogged me down, the one in this chapter. But the first Shrank battle, oh my god. And even that, it was, I liked it because it wasn't, the actual killing and the action wasn't described in detail. It was more the way in which the magnitude of the armies and the scale and all of that was described. I think that's what I appreciated about that. So it's a me thing. But I'm thinking of other authors whose action sequences I may or may not like. I think Steven Erikson writes several that I don't switch off for. Johnny Wirtz writes several that I don't switch off for. Brandon Sanderson writes several that always I switch off for. His action sequences are all I'm not throwing shade at him, but mostly his action sequences largely, at least I've only read Mistborn, but those are all one-on-one, right? Those, I think I particularly hate those kinds of action sequences. Because I don't visualize, I don't care, I don't know where anyone is. Just get this over with and move on to the story.
For me, it's about I don't care so much exactly for the spectacle, the beat by beat of the action, so much as I care about the emotional story of the action sequence, right? And that was something that I appreciated in this section of I really got the oh, they're just screwed. That I found impactful, although not as impactful as, you mentioned, Varsha. The previous Strong battle was just maybe my favorite battle we've had in the series up to date. It was just, I was stunned. I loved it. I read it all. I didn't start zoning out as I was reading, as I often do with these. This other one, it was I appreciated parts of it, but it also it was so, I couldn't tell you a single character's name in that sequence. I don't remember any of them.
Maybe the wizards fighting that part of a battle, right?
I mean, I couldn't tell you their name.
Yeah.
I liked it again, the emotional, you really get the sense that they are just screwed, and it feels like a big loss for the Great Ordeal, which I appreciated, and I liked that development for the story. But the actual people, I did not connect to. I didn't feel it just, I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. And so similarly, the tactics just kind of washed over me. Sorry, Justin, you were saying something.
Oh, I don't remember. But I think, well, I guess I was intrigued when you first started talking about how you glaze over during action sequences. It's it can be micro or macro for you. It doesn't really matter. You're kind of
Yeah, I think that Carl said if there's a particular, I didn't think about it that way. If there's a particularly so I think the Shrank battle, the first one, is a good example because it was more about how the armies congregated and the setup of it all, rather than individual fight sequences, right? So that's what I appreciated. So micro or macro, I think one-on-one battles I tend to almost always switch off for because it has a lot of movement and location and positioning of people, which, like, because I don't visualize when I read, I'm like, I don't track where anyone is, so I don't care. But I think large battles I do tend to follow for the most part, except when they have like 200 names thrown in, and then I'm like, nope, I can't keep track anymore.
You've read Abercrombie, right?
I have not yet, no.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Well, he writes some of the best duels,
Okay.
and I am also someone who is agnostic with fight scenes in books in particular. But his action, I eat it up. I just think he can do it.
Okay, I'll check it out. It's on my list. I just never got around to it.
You'll like it. I think you'll like it a
Yeah.
lot. He's
But I don't
anyway.
think
I don't
all the
work too
names
much.
in the battles here, like, I don't think you're supposed to know what's going on. It's just like flavor, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I just remembered. Wheel of Time has one-on-one action sequences that I actually do enjoy because they
Really?
don't. I'll tell you why, or at least I didn't switch off completely because it doesn't talk about how people move. It's more just this position met this position, this form met the other form, and I think I liked the prettiness of the names of forms. So
Fair enough.
Robert Jordan is very good at those sword forms, like coming up with like very evocative names for that. Yeah. I think that's an interesting other example of like there are times I definitely checked out more with the battle scenes, but like again, it's like the emotionality that I really connect to, and I think Robert Jordan is definitely someone who also focused on that, and I think actually to be clear, I think Baker also really tries to, I think he tries to balance, like a mixture of like strategy and kind of throwing these like for color, right? That like the old historical like poem vibes of like these different factions that you've never heard of before coming in and dying and like, different things like that. And someone you've never heard before doing something very heroic and like things like that on top of like just this like raw emotional story. And I definitely feel like he reached the like height of his powers with that first Shrank Horde battle. That was just every section of that just felt phenomenal. And I think in a kind of like comparatively like similar way to Silauges, which was a lot of action that I found by and large very captivating, and I was totally down for.
Well, we'll see about
I
the next
think-
ones. Maybe there's going to be other strength battles. Who knows? Maybe.
maybe.
I am sure that the final battle is going to be unreal.
Yeah, the sense of I liked the sense of scale in this second strength battle. I thought that was effective, and the like, I think directly related to that, the overwhelming sense of dread and futility.
Yeah.
Like there were some visuals that I found like quite stirring of like from the men's perspective, where like when they realize they're just completely they're screwed. And like I feel like that sense of dread was palpable in that section, but I also think that it was too long. I was kind of like, okay,
Maybe the last book is all the last battle. Just the whole book.
I talking about the images. I loved the one that really stood out to me was the Mandate schoolmen in the sky, and they couldn't see each other, and like lights would just start winking out.
Yeah,
And it was just like I was like, oh, that hit me. That was something I really liked about that sequence.
Yeah. Oh yeah, about the first Shrine battle, that's the other thing that I really love too. That's the first time we saw the witches fight, and oh my god, those descriptions were phenomenal. I was thinking, in many ways, pretty much all of Baker's battles are similar to the Shrank battle in that I don't think the objective is to make you care for any particular side or root for any particular group of people to win. It's more to give you a sense of scale and magnitude of like what's going on, like how many people are dying and just how big the armies are that are clashing. I think in many ways that's what it is, and it seems to me that that's his goal, to present the sense of chaos and just, I guess, the horror of battle to a great extent. So I guess his objective with battle scenes seems different than you might potentially encounter in most fantasy novels.
So, anyone have any other thoughts about this? Otherwise, I am going to pivot. I have a question for my fellow first-time readers.
I want to go back really quickly to the discussion before this one, before we completely switch gears. The bit about the White Luck Warrior. So there was one, I had a question for Justin and Dan because you guys weren't here last time when we were talking about it, but there's one section when Sorville goes to kill his slave, when there's a section in italics. Are we supposed to think then that that's the White Luck Warrior, or are they just like randomly in italics?
There's a section where what happens?
Where Sorville goes to kill, like
Yeah.
where he and his slave go to like dig up the face with,
Yeah.
in which he ends up eventually getting the Korai. There is some, there is a few paragraphs which are in italics, and
Oh, I thought it was like sort of like he's having sort of like a vision sort of thing. It's similar to when the Satman and Neferi in the first book sees the goddess right before her. I thought it was sort of like that, where you're like, oh, is it
Okay,
real?
okay.
Is he seeing things?
That's fair. I just, yeah, because the only sections in this book so far that we've had like completely in italics have been the White Luck Warrior, so I thought that was a White Luck Warrior interlude of some sort, but I wasn't sure. It seemed strange, and the guy's all the way in and about
Yeah.
Momem, I guess.
Maybe it's some sort of god vision sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe I'm remembering wrong that section.
Oh, well, I guess, Carl, you can do your question.
My question was just, we have again in this, rewinding to chapter 12, it's brought up again, that Mimara is not reacting to the Korai, right? Like, it's not, even though she seemingly has this like magical part of her, like she doesn't turn to
But she
salt,
hasn't yet
right?
gone over the threshold. Like, she hasn't done any magic. I think that's when you do something, right? Because that's where what Akemian says is like, oh, is this magic, when she gives us this Cyrillic point? And she's like, no, you're just maintaining something someone else did, so you're not doing anything. So it's not gonna.
Okay.
Like, I feel like that's what it is, but I don't think it's explained exactly, right?
Okay.
And
There was just and maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I completely made this up in my memory, but I thought there was a section where someone was thinking about that. I forget if it was, I want to say it was Mimara herself, but maybe not, where she's thinking about how like the Korai, the Tear of God is just like, it functions for her however it does, and like yet it, like she wears it at her breast every night, but it isn't like seemingly, like what is her connection with it, right? Like she wonders like, what it's, there's something more going on there. And so I was curious about the thoughts of what, whatever is going on with.
I mean, we did mention that she
I wanna call
seems
that
to see it differently, right? She seems to perceive it differently, at least when she
Right.
sees it with the eye.
Right, and like at the end of Sylogus,
Yeah.
right, she used it to banish the Wraith King. Like, what is going on there? If you have any other additional thoughts about it, because I am stumped. I still have no idea what the fuck is going on.
I don't know. But it's also interesting that, like, the Kore, does it work against the gods? Because the goddess gave it to Sorwheel, right? How would she
Right.
able to, if it neutralizes magic? Isn't magic what was happening there? Maybe not?
I think of a different nature. Like there's magic, like the gnosis and anagogic sorcery is like a rewriting, sort of like overwriting reality in a way that is like considered blasphemous. So like I'm assuming like the magic that the gods bring is something entirely different.
True, that would track.
That's what I'm
And
thinking.
I mean, part of the reason I was like asking that question too was like, what, because that was my thought, right? Is like, and I think we've maybe talked about this before, but like, it seems like Mimara also has some sort of divine connection going on, right? And she seems like, obviously, just with the what we know about the gods, like Yotwar is an obvious one to look at. I think there was another, I know it's Esmenet that we connected to Fate, whatever her name is, the whore, right? I think we talked about that last episode. But yeah, to me, it seems like there's something going on there. I'm just not sure what with her and the gods. And I guess I'm increasingly looking for the gods in every story, even when they're not explicitly there, because now I'm like, they're here, they're like influencing things. So like, what are they doing? Like, are they everywhere? What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. I just have questions about Mimara at this point. Like, I wonder if like the Kore that she used is it fundamentally changed, or does she just wield it in a different way? Like, are all Kore potentially that in her hands?
Yeah, exactly. Can anyone do that? Does it require the judging eye? Like, what is going on there?
I assume it was related to the judging eye.
Right. That would make sense. But we still don't fully understand how the judging eye works either. We just have the legends, right? And so like the unborn child or stillborn child who God we know is, again, that doesn't seem to have clicked with her yet, which is sad. Like, she's like willfully denying the fact that her child is not going to come out.
Yeah. I'm curious too, like, the whole judging eye thing, like, it seems like this concept of characters in this book being damned is directly related to like, hubris, like the hubris of sorcery, of like rewriting reality is like this very hubristic act. And like the scene where she sees Casoter and the Skin Eaters, and they're all just like damned as all hell, because and if they're damned in the same way that sorcerers are damned, then like what does that say about Kellis? Because like everything they've done in service to Kellis, which I'm really curious, like what does it mean to be damned, and like what damns you, and why? I only have questions.
Absolutely. I love this whole, I adored, it really felt like a horror chapter. Mimara, trying to essentially manipulate her way into like saving her and Acanian. And the captain, like, you have those moments where the captain's like almost like a monster in a monster movie, right? Where like, you're afraid he's gonna like, is she winning against him? Is she not? And then, he always pulls the rug out from under her, and he's just so, he was never scarier for me than he was in this chapter. Like, I just found him terrifying here, and I just thought it was so well written and well done, and a real
Feels
page
very
turner.
much like those books or narratives that you read about people kidnapped and kept in, like, trapped inside the house or the basement, or trying to get out. It's like, oh, is he here?
Exactly.
Is he gone away? Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, it's the serial, it's less monster and more like the serial killer story, right? Exactly.
Yeah, I love Baker, the horror writer that has come out in this second series. I feel like he's quite effective.
Yeah.
I'm sad he hasn't come back and like written something else, or I mean, I'm curious if the individual has written things and just
I mean, there's another
publishing
series he's written other books, just not in this universe.
Well, I know he wrote like a
Yeah.
sci-fi book, right, that came out, but like, has he written other stuff that he just hasn't published?
I mean, he's written 2 stories in this universe.
Hasn't he written another like a psychological thriller
Maybe, yeah.
or something like
like
that?
That is published?
I think so. Yeah, I think I remember
Okay.
reading like that his wife, like he wrote it because his wife challenged him to write something like that or something like that. That is what I recall. I've been trying to avoid pretty much anything about him on the internet because I don't want any spoilers. So
That's smart.
but
I mean, that's because that's the thing is like even if he feels like he doesn't have more story to tell or like he just doesn't want to write it yet or whatever, you know, the rest of the books that theoretically could happen in this universe. I would love to see him just write something else. Like he's, you know, again, to write like a straight up horror novel, you know, and to see what his take on a horror novel would be. Or like, yeah, if he has a thriller, I would love to read it at some point. And
Yeah,
a
it's called-
sci-fi book. You
Yeah,
know,
Neuropath
imagine
and
Neuro-
Disciple of the Dog.
yeah,
yeah, there would be some thematic overlap. I just feel like it would have to be dealing with like free will and like notions of like determinism and, you know, how that just seems to be something he's really obsessed with. And I guess he did his PhD on something related to that. And it, I don't think he ever finished it too. He's an interesting dude.
I wonder if the protagonist's name in Neuropath is Kellis or something related to it. Well, I mean, you know, Scott, I know you're listening, so I really want you to write the third series personally. Just if I can call you Scott.
Yeah, please.
Maybe R.
Maybe he wants
Go
us to
by
call
R,
him
I don't know.
Scotty.
Scotty, that's the secret. Yeah.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
He goes
Scotty,
by
my
Scotty.
boy. Please write more. I'll give you some money, please.
Yeah. Are we ready for quotes? Anything else?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I guess. Oh, I had one question. So like, Kellis has got to know that like he's got like a Jamie Cersei situation going on here, right? And like,
They're not blood related.
is he worried about
There's
it?
nothing wrong.
It's at least a little better than Jamie
That's true.
Cersei.
That's true. Yeah. But like Kellis knows, and like I guess I'm getting the vibe that like they're doing this. That this wasn't just a one-time thing for Sorwheel's benefit. Like I feel like this is ongoing, and like maybe it's not just them. You know, I don't know.
Oh God, that's a horrible thought. Oh man,
Awkward.
all the kids are. I'm not even gonna go
Just in
there.
love. There's nothing wrong with love.
Yeah, the things I do for love.
Okay, yeah, that's all I had.
I mean, I'm with you. I think Kellis, he has to know. If he's been spying on Academy all these years, he definitely knows his kids are screwing. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
And he has to be okay with it. I mean, he must just think it's not a big deal or it's part of his plan or something. Like, you know.
Yeah, maybe he planned for it. Maybe he wants that to happen. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe he's into it. Who knows?
Yeah. That's his darkness that comes before.
Oh God.
Oh no, not breaking Varsha.
A little bit, yeah.
This has been a hell of an episode for everything.
Oh, the jokes and the puns. It was funny though. So, quote. I don't know, I feel like I don't have any from these two chapters.
Steve has to have quotes. Steve, hit us.
Yes. I have one. The darkness came swirling down.
Death came swirling down.
Oh, death,
please.
right.
Well, you'll get to remember it in the next books. It's gonna come up. Again.
Interesting.
He likes it. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that I had. I don't have as many quotes in the second series. but one of them was on my edition 464. Father Surwa explained, says that we have an extra soul, one that lives and the other that watches us living. We are prone to be at war with ourselves, the Anisrimber.
Makes sense.
I do really like the epigraph of chapter 13. Gods are epochal beings, not quite alive. Since the now eludes them, they are forever divided. Sometimes nothing blinds souls more profoundly than the apprehension of the whole. Men need recall this when they pray. It's really interesting, I think, because it kind of, to my mind, just straight up lays out how the gods function in this universe. I mean, because it seems like Agensis is right about everything he writes. First of all, it seems like Baker is like, if he wants someone, to get an idea across, Agensis is his guy. But beyond that, it makes a lot of sense with how they function, right? And that, and I think it also is an interesting note in universe, right? Again, because of that last note about like prayer, that like, yeah, you may pray to them, but like, that's a blip. Like they don't even, they think of the whole picture. They don't think of you suffering right then. That's nothing to them.
Cool. Any others?
Yeah, a ton of quotes. This a lot of battles.
Lots of battles.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess it's also because we've been only reading a couple of chapters each week. But these two were pretty action heavy, I think. And the last one, the next section has us in the library of Soglish. Are we? Is it just Soglish or library, the chapter name?
Yeah, we got Momin and Soglish.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And we're finishing up here.
I guess if the other two storylines ended with a cliffhanger, then we need a cliffhanger for the other two storylines, right?
Oh god.
Before going to the next book.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. It's okay. I know we're jumping right on. I mean, it's not like we're stopping, but
Felt like I have to wait for the next book. It did feel okay. Maybe cliffhanger is the word I was looking for, but it feels like something was abruptly dropped mid-story where we left off. I guess that's what a cliffhanger is, but like but you when for a cliffhanger you usually care about like what the outcome is, like at a very critical juncture I need to know what happens next. This feels more just like something incomplete happened with these characters, for me at least. It's just it's not that I really care about what happens immediately after this. It's more that it doesn't feel like a point of completion for a book. Like, of course, we know there's more coming in the next book, but
that's the issue I've had with these shore wheel endings, is they don't feel like endings to me. They kind of just. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the climax joke again. It just feels like it just sort of ends.
Yeah.
Like it's a dramatic moment.
Like prematurely.
God.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, definitely it's a little premature.
I don't know, guys. It's my darkness that comes before. Right?
Yeah, no, this is good. This is our comedy hour. This is what the listeners come for. And you can interpret that phrase however you want to.
Wow.
do you just have a machine that you can press
there's
a
all these
button
different sounds, and I get to finally use it.
I love it.
Fun,
I can't believe you've had that's been locked and loaded and ready all this time.
Dude,
I'm just waiting for the right time.
The self-control, that is.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would be abusing that all the time. Like it's a sound effect for, every new everything. Just no one would get a word in.
I just found a cover for because we were looking up books that Baker wrote. I found I don't know what language this translation is, but a very interesting cover for a translation of what I think is The Darkness That Comes Before, and I can't figure out whether or not I like it. There's this super emo looking non-man person. I think it's a non-man. I don't, but he has hair, so maybe not.
But I mean, it's not like cover artists really read the book. So
That's true.
What
Yeah.
the hell is going on here?
It's something.
Okay.
interesting.
Some strange covers.
Yeah.
This series has had just no luck with covers. I feel
I
terrible.
don't think that's
They-
anyone. I can't think of anyone it could be in the whole.
You know what? This is a real thing that publishing houses do is they will have bought covers, just like they will just buy like an artwork and they'll just like stick it
like,
on a book. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to have,
like
to have
pulp
anything to do with
sci-fi
the
or
book.
fiction in
It'll
the 80s or whatever. Just random paintings put in, right?
Yeah, exactly. They've been
Interesting.
doing this for decades. They'll like we own all of these covers and we'll just stick one of them on this book, and that drives me nuts. It's just absolutely ludicrous to me.
Yeah,
We
for the
don't-
people listening, it's the French version of the paperback.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not sure who that is.
Just some super emo guy.
I mean,
So we don't know who this guy is. We don't know who the guy on that cover is. So basically, the guy whose face is on every damn book.
I fucking hate these face covers of the whole. I can't stand them. They look terrible.
They should have kept the same theme as the first trilogy.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
those.
I thought that was nice and simple.
looks
Yeah,
great.
it was great.
You say that, but I have the face covers for the
Oh.
original trilogy
Lucky
you.
too. So they exist. Yeah, I know. I have the really special limited edition. Yeah, I'm so on board with the simple like just medieval artwork with like some color palette washed over it, and like this is just the faces and the weird vines and things that are going on, and it's just ugly.
Yeah.
It's really, and the weird font choices. Like why is the Aspect Emperor in like what even it Calibri?
Yeah.
Like one of those like shitty generic fonts you get when you open up Microsoft Word. It's
Unfortunately, most books,
Yeah.
unless you're a very famous author, even then, a lot of covers are trash, to be honest.
absolutely. Yeah, no, some of those, I feel like there's like a middle ground oftentimes that you want to be in. Then obviously there are exceptions, but I feel like a lot of the times if you're like a top tier author, you have to appeal to the biggest market possible. So you get really generic covers where not a lot is going on. And it's usually just like, a single image, like a bird on the cover and then the title and big font and the author's name and even bigger font. And then, you have the like lower list where they just get whatever crappy cover we have here. And then, you need like a middle ground where you actually get to like
The
influence
best
the title.
covers
like,
are usually reprints of things which are already successful, but not reprints because of books or any other thing, just organic reprints because, it's a well-loved thing. Usually those seem to be the best, or it's a famous work that gets reprinted every once in a while.
That's a great point. There definitely are a lot of, old reprinted works that have really awesome covers.
This
Like I'm thinking of the Moorcock, the recent Elric covers are awesome.
Yeah, this like penguin. The penguin cover I have for the Thousandfold Thought is pretty
Yeah.
good.
It's not bad.
This one is a disaster actually. Like it's kind of
That's horrible.
it's
Okay.
like it has this original artwork of a circumfix, which is like cool, but like it's a mess. There are like 7 typefaces on this fucking cover, and like you can't see it probably, but like in the background, it looks like Japanese. Like very lightly behind
You sure it's
everything.
not maybe
like,
Arabic? That would make more sense, I feel. In this year.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Japanese makes no sense.
I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on with it. I mean, it's a nice it's got a nice feel to it. It's a nice volume, but the cover's a disaster.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I really truly do believe that if this whole series was reprinted with like a legitimately good cover art for everything, it would help sales dramatically, and they would see a huge skyrocket. This has like been noted to happen before. Like we're talking about Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn bombed initially and had a notoriously terrible cover, and his agent and him were like pressured the publishers like, you have to give us a better cover than this. So for the paperback, they commissioned a new cover, and sales exploded. It's like just they need to give it another shot.
I totally agree. Yeah. Those covers
Yes.
are not helping anybody.
Nope. Okay. Any other topics before we wrap up tonight's discussion?
I'm ready for outros.
Okay, let's do outros. Steve.
Find us on pagejoin.com.
Going
Dan.
for the competition of the shortest outro, are you, Steve?
I have to beat Dan. I have to try and beat Dan.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. And find me on Patreon, Fire 17. So.
I don't know, I think I beat you, Dan. Yeah.
Yep, Carl D. Albert on social media, but please come to Page Chewing.
Yep. Justin, go to Page Chewing for sure. It's great.
That it is.
All the coolest people are there.
Yep.
Just come hang out with us. If you get more quality jokes like the ones you heard today.
More adult conversations like the one you had tonight.
Yeah, everyone should go through the Romanticy thread. It's quite entertaining to read.
That it is. All right, so we'll see everyone next week. We'll be talking through the end of The White Luck Warrior. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.